By now, many of you know that Carolina and sports fans around the globe lost a special friend yesterday with the far too early passing of Stuart Scott. A native of Winston-Salem, Stuart left an indelible mark on sports broadcasting with his unique style and his joy of life. His enthusiastic support made Late Night with Roy a memorable way to start each basketball season. He loved Carolina in a way that everyone knew he was a Tar Heel and proud of it. He reminded us that sports were games and life was not. He showed us how to work, how to fight, how to live, and how to love. His broadcasting left us with many highlights, but his fight against cancer these last 7 years taught us even more about grace, dignity, and determination. Tonight's game is being televised by ESPN, Stuart's professional home for the past 21 years. The University of North Carolina and its colleagues at ESPN ask you to join us in a moment of silence in honor of Stuart Scott, Carolina class of '87, who challenges each of us to live life with passion and courage and joy, and is and forever will be a Tar Heel.
Stuart Scott was a North Carolina guy. He was born in Chicago, Illinois, but at the age of 7, his family moved to Winston-Salem. He graduated from R.J. Reynolds High School in Winston-Salem, and following that, he came to UNC and studied communications. While he was at UNC, he was in Alpha Phi Alpha, and he was the stepmaster for his fraternity, and he just really left an impact on the campus. After he graduated, he worked in Raleigh for a small-time broadcasting, and through that, and he gained experience, and he eventually got on with ESPN in 1993. Scott also, while he was working with ESPN, he had a column called Holla, which premiered in the ESPN magazine, and it just kind of really brought the hip-hop culture to even to print instead of just his personal style.
You know, when you thought of Late Night, you know, it was Late Night with Roy, you know, there was, Stuart Scott was going to be there. He was part of it. You know, the basketball players were part of it, Roy was part of it, and Stuart Scott was part of it. Those were, I guess, the three, you know, essential pieces to Late Night with Roy. You had to have it. You know, he got the crowd fired up. You kind of, I don't know, for me at least, you know, felt like you could walk up to him and talk to him, and, you know, we like to say this Carolina family, you know, we like to call it a Carolina family. You actually kind of felt like he was, you know, he would be part of your family. You could walk up and just talk to him and be cool.
In my freshman year here at Carolina, so that was 2012, Stuart Scott hosted
Chapel Hill,
Late
North
Night
Carolina.
with Roy.
How are you all doing tonight? How are you all doing tonight? Once again, it is great to be back home, back here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
I actually was a newcomer to the sports world at that point, so I knew that Late Night with Roy was a really big deal for basketball, but I didn't actually know who Stuart Scott was until we got there, and I knew that he was affiliated with ESPN. I don't remember specific words, but I just remember him saying that Carolina, just the importance of Carolina and how he was a Carolina alum and how it stays with you forever for the rest of your life.
I would say the most memorable, I can't remember if it was my freshman year or sophomore year. One of the most recognizable quotes, I guess, from Stuart when he did late night was he would point at the NC, you know, the state and the interlocking NC on the center court of the Dean-Dome, and he would say, you know, that's why we're here. You know, it's on the court, it's on your T-shirt, it's in your heart, and he said, you know, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about right there. That's on the floor, that's on your shirt, that's in your heart. That's why we're all here.
So I remember one iconic moment from Late Night with Roy was actually this phrase that Stuart Scott said. He said, "It's that right there. It's on the floor. It's on your shirt, and it's in your heart." And he pointed to the center logo at the Dean Dome, and that was just a really awesome moment. It gives me chills every time I see it. They used it as the hype video for basketball last year, and so before every home game, we would watch that, and it was just a very chilling moment just to think like what it would have been like if he was there, just how monumental of a person he was.
I feel like, I guess so if you want to say it in one word, he was just cool.
Cool as the other side of the pillow.
It was cool to watch Stuart Scott, when he moved on to SportsCenter and on the main channel on ESPN. I guess he kind of bridged that gap between, kind of the more serious sports fans or, older sports fans and things of that sort and the newer, younger generation of sports fans and things of that sort. He made watching golf highlights cool, which was kind of neat, I guess. When you consider, to me at least, I don't think golf is the most exciting of sports. But, listening to Stuart Scott on SportsCenter, doing a golf highlight was something. It was cool. You could just sit there and listen to him read highlights all day.
Who's got the best left hook right cross in sports?
I rock the party that rocks your body.
If you're Warren Moon, what are you doing at this hour? Watching Sports Night? We know. Coop, you go, girl. Coop.
His early season baseline, bring it down to your ankles dunk on the Pacers is not why. Neither is his climb up Dikembe, throw one down in his grill. No, Vince won the Rookie of the Year for leading all rookies with 18.3 points per game.
Top 5. Oh, yeah. Royce Clayton takes Juan Guzman out.
A lot of what made Stuart Scott cool was his culture and his background. No one had ever seen anything like him before in the sportscasting world. He was the really first prominent African-American person on ESPN, and through that he brought in this whole culture, like the hip-hop culture, and all these catchphrases that he would say, and people were just really entertained by his passion.
One thing that was super awesome about Stuart Scott, it's something that pretty much all Tar Heels can relate to, is his just undying love for Carolina. And everybody that worked with him at SportsCenter could always test this. He'd always bring up the Tar Heels in SportsCenter. He always had a little bit of pizzazz when he'd talk about them.
Hey, Rich, where did Vince go to school?
I'm unfamiliar.
He went to North Carolina.
Oh.
Rich Carter, the 5th Tar Heel to be named NBA Rookie of the Year, more than any other school.
And you could just tell that deep down, like he loved being a Tar Heel, and he loved all the students here, and you could tell he loved the campus. And he would still come back and host Late Night with Roy, and it was just really awesome, really great thing that he brought. And he really brought the passion, and you could tell, you could look at him and you think, that's how I want to feel about Carolina. I want to have that love. I want to show that love to other people. And he was just very passionate about his Tar Heels, and it was great to see that.
So I've been to every single Late Night with Roy since my first year, which has been interesting because they've changed a lot in terms of host or no host, or what energy is brought to Late Night with Roy. But I remember my junior year when when Marcus Page started the chant for Stu, and really feeling like one of our own was very sick.
I remember one really awesome moment for everybody in the crowd is Marcus Page, after Late Night with Roy was pretty much over, Marcus Page took the mic and kind of just started talking to us about Stuart Scott and how important he was to us, and he was really struggling at this point. And so he led us all in a cheer of "Get well, Stu."
I think he was here 9 other years. Stuart Scott from ESPN. Right now, Stuart is struggling a little bit health-wise, but he's fighting an unbelievable battle. We want to have something right now that we hope the people at SportsCenter will show and send to Stuart Scott. Our players will start. I'm going to give them the microphone, and you guys need to help us. The most active that you've been all night has got to be right now, because Stuart Scott is a Tar Heel.
It's always hard to remember, you know, because I feel like there are checks every year being handed out. But I do remember Roy donating from like his personal money for, you know, a cancer foundation as well, which I thought was really cool that a coach would do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing we're presenting to Stuart is a check for $20,000 to the UNC Lineberger Cancer Center in his name as a thank you for what he has done for us.
Coach, just could you comment on what your initial reaction was, your thoughts when you first heard the news that Stuart had passed away this morning?
Extreme sadness. It's the kind of thing where you watch someone on TV and then you get to know them personally and you love so many things about them. It hits you in a sense that you were much closer to them than you really were because he was part of your life. And so extreme sadness and hurt, and that's about it.
Last year when I was here and I got to see my first late night with Roy my freshman year and how it was predominantly dedicated to Stuart Scott.
Honestly, the best part of Late Night with Roy honoring Stuart Scott was the presentation of his fraternity here, Alpha Phi Alpha, and kind of their step show in honor of him. I feel like dance is one of the best nonverbal forms of, you know, either sorrow or joy or celebration of life, and they were phenomenal, which was awesome because he was also the step master, I think, for his fraternity.
He really is an inspiration, always has been and always will be. He was a pioneer in the media world with his catchphrases. He was a pioneer in saying things that nobody else would say, or he was the first one to say them. But at the same time, the toughness that he showed in the public perception that was so true about how he fought this battle was something that would make John Wayne envy him. And the persona of John Wayne fighting cancer, the persona of Stuart Scott fighting cancer, and telling me personally that his dream was to walk down the aisle with his two daughters at their weddings is something that you have to be a tough pioneer and a tough person to let that drive you, and he did let it drive him.
People, I think we kind of revered Stuart the same way that, you know, in the same breath as like Dean and Roy, you know, and Stuart is not a coach, you know, but it's kind of the same thing.
He was a friend. He was a guy that I idolized. Stuart Scott was a hero to me. Stuart Scott, Tar Heel.
I also realized something else recently. You heard me kind of allude to it in the piece. I said, I'm not losing. I'm still here. I'm fighting. I'm not losing. But I got to amend that. When you die, that does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. So live, fight like hell. And when you get too tired to fight, then lay down and rest and let somebody else fight for you.